My name is Manuel Ponce. I'm the clinical associate professor in the educational leadership department. I'm also the director of the Institute of School Leadership and Administration. So I run the admin, credential, and MA programs, along with the MA in Ed Leadership, which is an online program across the US. So I'm here to answer any other questions. I think Anthony did a great job of explaining the MA portions as well. I'm sure he's been able to answer lots of questions, but I'm here to um, answer any of the questions or give thoughts on the credential or MA programs.
Hello, Dr. Ponce.
Hello.
My name is Jamisha. I wanted to ask you, what are the pros and cons of getting the credential versus doing the master's program? Because I know at my job currently, there are some who only have the credential and there are some who have the master program.
Hi, Jamisha. And you and I were playing email tag.
Yes, we were.
Yes. So are you currently in a charter school, correct? Okay. So there's a little bit of a difference. So charter schools do not require the administrative credential. Well, I shouldn't say all.
Yeah.
Some don't require the administrative credentials. More and more of them are requiring it. Here's what I'll tell you. The master's degree is kind of your catch-all when it comes to leadership program. The administrative credential, though, unlocks doors to other positions in other organizations. If you don't get the administrative credential, then you would not be able to move into administration in any traditional public school. You would also not be able to get higher level district positions, such as coaches, directors, superintendents, things of that nature. In charter organizations, it's getting closer and closer to them moving towards requiring the administrative credential, especially for higher level positions. But I think what I would say, especially in our program, the credential and masters can be done at the same time. And so if you're really interested in doing the masters, that can be done. But the credential is first, and it's the first 18 units, then you can complete it. My suggestion, having been in the field for this long, is the administrative credential, a licensure, the license is more valuable if you're looking to go into administration. Now, if you don't have a master's already, I would consider getting the master's along with the credential, because a lot of organizations are asking for masters as well. If you want to go on to doctoral studies or further, you have to have a master's in order to enter those studies. But right now, the way the field is going, the credential, the license is what's being seen as most valuable at the moment.
Okay. And not to take all of your time, but the last question, we already have a master's currently. So then you're kind of saying that if I already have a master's, then just a credential would suffice. And then if I wanted to take the additional courses, like let's say later on, people could come back and take those courses, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Within 5 years.
Okay.
You can do this. So there's two questions in the chat. One is I noticed diverse and diversity are in the titles of the courses. How does this program focus on diversity? How is it different than other programs? Such a great question. So first and foremost, the program is built on the Jesuit principles of whole person. And so from the very beginning, it already started from building from the idea of equity and inclusion for all people. It's what our whole foundation is based on. In the ISLA program, we are very focused on praxis. So understanding that our learning and our ability to make change in communities, in our communities, in communities of those that have been marginalized in the past, is one of our main focus and main goals. We're grounded in social justice and culturally responsive pedagogy. So, for example, one of the first courses you take is a diversity and equity class. And that class, you will be reading from deep works from everyone from Paulo Freire to Mohammed Khalifa to Gramsci to Dardere, all talking about the idea of equity and what does it actually mean, and what are the action steps you take as a leader in order to infuse that not only in your philosophy, but in action steps at your school when you become a leader. Every single course is built upon the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racist, and social justice practices. It's a requirement. It's but more than a requirement, it's our moral obligation and our ethical obligation. So our challenge as professors is to ensure that the authors that we're reading, the social justice practices that we're putting into place, the activities that we do in classes, all geared toward not only learning leadership and how to lead a school, but leading it in a way that is closing gaps for all students, especially our Black and Brown students, our marginalized students, and ensuring that the decisions that we make, we know are not made in a vacuum, that they create ripple effects that will also reach towards equity. A lot of other programs talk about how to complete a budget. We have a class that talks about completing budgets. But the difference is we're asking you to complete the budget and having it reflect your ideas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. How does it reflect your purpose? How does it reflect your background and the context that you will work in your schools? How do you make decisions based on that anchor, on that North Star? So that everything keeps coming back to purpose, coming back to diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, social justice. So you will see that and hear that and feel it in every single class that you take. That truly is the difference. We will challenge you and we will push and we will ask you to really give of self when it comes to understanding how are you going to be a leader that's bold enough to take on the constructs that are there and dismantle it from within. And we talk about it all the time. It's part of our curriculum, and it truly is built based on those beliefs. Is there a benefit to having 2 master's degrees? It really just depends on whether or not it's really about your trajectory. If there's a reason for you to get a second master's because it is, I always tell people, if you're going to get 1 master's, get something that has leadership in it. Because organizations, education or not, look for that leadership lens. Because everyone wants to understand, wants someone that can lead from behind, lead from the front and behind, understanding what it takes to be a leader. But there is no additional benefit when it comes to being an administrator or a teacher, unless there's something you just really want to learn, which I totally understand. But the second question to that was administrative credential and PhD program. There isn't, and the reason why there isn't is the doctoral programs have their own curriculum that's written by the schools. The credential program is mandated by the state standards. So California state standards, you have to follow those. If you're doing a doctoral program, even LMU's doctoral program, there's a different set of standards based on the 2 programs. So you don't see a lot of doctoral and credential programs. Plus, both are a lot of work, and that would be difficult.
Thank you.
Sure. Any different questions? Let's see. Can one begin the admin preliminary credential program while completing their last MA class? Is possible, yes. That's something we would take on case by case basis, but as long as your credential, because part of what this might have been answered before, the requirements to get into an administrative credential program is that you have your base credential, which is a teaching credential, and it could be a PPS credential if you're a counseling person or school psych. At the end of the program, when you're done with the preliminary credential program, you have to have at least 5 years of teaching experience or education experience with that base credential. So if you're starting the admin credential program with 1 year, you may not get in. 2 years, you may not get in. And really for the reason of, we want you to work on craft first. right? That's always my suggestion is you have to understand yourself as teacher first, and or as counselor or as school psych. Understand the craft, work through the craft, understand where you're coming from, and then you'll be able to engage in the admin programs. But in order to get your credential, you have to have 5 years full-time credentialed. Teach for America first year intern credential does count if you're, or doesn't have to be Teach for America. If you have an intern credential, that year counts as part of that 5 years, and your credential must be cleared by the time you finish. So if it's not cleared yet, my suggestion is to look to clear it before you enter an admin program. Too many things to do at one time is difficult, but we take that on a case-by-case basis as well. Hope that answers your question. The last one is, what information can you share about the assessment for the credential? Great question. So about 5 years ago, the state said, and this is, the state said, hey, how can we assess admin in a as authentic way as possible? Teachers have done it with the EdTPAs and things of that nature. So they added what's called the Cal APA, the California Assessment for California Administrative Performance Assessment, Cal APA. It consists of 3 cycles. Each cycle you do, just like we did as a teacher, is you focus in on a problem of practice, an equity gap. You do a gap analysis. You understand why that gap is happening. You look for ways to remedy that gap, and then you try to implement something to remedy that gap. And you're gathering data, you're meeting with your colleagues, you're creating systems, you're doing PD, you're facilitating. Those are the fieldwork components that Anthony was mentioning in terms of fieldwork. There's things that you do on campus, at your own campus, not like student teaching where you had to go somewhere else. It's on your own campus. You do 3 cycles. First, cycle 1 is in your first semester. It's all about data gathering and identifying the gap. So you have coursework that supports that. And then you have an actual class, which is a 0-unit class. That's a support class for you. And you take it 3 or 4 times in the semester. And our coordinator supports you in building what it needs to be able to pass cycle 1. Cycle 2 is all about transformation. So how do you now take this gap and how do you get people on board to support you in solving that gap? So you'll do some PLC work. You may facilitate a PD. You're recording those. It reminds you all of the teacher prep stuff, recording, tagging, and turning it in. Cycle 3 is in your last semester. Cycle 3 is about, now that you've kind of identified that, how do you make it actually happen in the classroom? And of course, the way we do that is working with teachers. So you'll do a coaching cycle with the teacher. You'll support them. You'll do a pre-observation conference, an observation conference, post-observation, all the things that you probably are doing right now or have gone through. And you'll assess those. You'll record. You'll do some debriefs. And then you package that up and you submit that to Pearson and to the state. Now, this is a state assessment. It's not an LMU assessment, but we help you. We support you in that work because every semester you have that 0-unit class. You have coursework that supports you with it. And in addition, which, the question about what sets us apart is we actually hire and assign you mentors that will work with you side by side from the beginning of your program all the way through to the end. Most of these fieldwork instructors that we call them mentors are alumni from our credential program. So they've gone through it. They've gone through the Cal APA. They've gone through the coursework. A lot of our alumni love coming back, which I think says a lot about how proud I am of our program. They want to come back and support the next group that comes through, and they help you. They go week to week. They connect with you, make sure that you're moving in the right direction. They support you in that. And right now we have over a 90% pass rate first time through when it comes to the Cal APA cycles. And we're very proud of that. And we want to put it all over the place. Because we are set up for success. How that also makes us different is other universities don't necessarily support you with it because it's not a university assessment. It's a state assessment. Some of them just kind of leave you on your own. We wouldn't do that. We're invested in your success. So we want to make sure that you're prepared to take those assessments. Sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but we try to align it and make it so that it's doable for those that are, you're all working, let's face it, more than a full-time job. And so we want to make sure that this is conducive to you actually being able to make it happen. Someone said, I noticed, to ensure that applicants have a base credential, are you all, yes, so your application will ask you to upload your credential. So when you apply to the program, it will ask you to upload your credential, and then we do a credential check before moving to the next step. So you'll have to know whether you have we'll have to know whether you have the base credential, how many years have you had that base credential. So we do all that checking before moving to the next step. So
Dr. Ponce,
yes.
if they submitted the application already and it went through without them uploading it, they can just email a copy to SOE admissions at lmu.edu, and Cheryl's gonna upload it.
Excellent. And if you received an email saying that your application is in, it should say you're missing certain things because that credential needs to be a part of that. If it didn't, just know that we'll ask for that. Yeah, we can upload that for you. Yeah. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that. Notice that it's called a preliminary admin credential. Yes, you do have to clear it. If you cleared your teaching credential, it's basically the same thing as your admin credential. It's a 2-year induction program across the state. That's the requirement now. Before you didn't have to. There was a couple of classes you took and you were good. Now, frankly, I think the state is like, how can we get more fees out of our candidates coming through? That's my opinion, not that of LMU. But it's an induction program. You go through, you have a mentor, they work with you, you complete work, you submit it, same as you would do your teaching credential, your clear teaching credential. And that takes 2 years. You do not have to start that until you get an admin position after you finish the program. You do not have to become an administrator right after you finish your credential program. You get what's called a certificate of eligibility, which basically means you can become an admin, you have the admin credential requirements, but it's on pause. And it just sits there and sits there and sits there. It doesn't expire. At least right now, it doesn't expire. It'll be good there for years. Once you decide it's time for me to make the jump, or you're asked to, or you're promoted into something, once that happens, your district or charter org will help you activate your credential. Once your admin credential is activated, the clock starts with your induction, and you have 2 years to do that. So you don't have to make the jump now.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things from different people, and I don't know if it's different from program to program, but I had gone to a meeting with CSUN the other day, and like they were all over the place with their information. And then I asked a few people I knew, and they thought, well, you can have it for 10 years before you actually get a job, but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So very confusing.
I give it to you directly from the CTC. So if, when it comes to the credential stuff, we don't give a credential. We recommend. The state is the one that gives the credential. So we just try to be that conduit and as clear as possible. CSUN may trying to infuse different things. I'm a Matador, so I can't be mad at them. But still, when it comes to credentials, it's best to just go by what the CTC says and keep it that way. If they change it at some point, we'll put it out there. But we try to be as straightforward as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, we've had quite a few of our candidates move right into administrative positions right after the program, and some even towards the end. And part of that is, one, we have amazing people that come into our program that are already leading. The other part of it is we have a large network, and a lot of the networks call us and say, who do you have? Who's coming down? Who's your superstar? And I might say, well, I have this Jamisha Gray, or I have Samantha Keller. You need to talk to this person. I'll send the information, and they start to look at you, and they start to, basically have you do it's like a 16-month interview process for this. So it's big that way. Question: how many applicants do you accept? Our cohorts are kept at a cohort size of about 18. Sometimes we will go to 20 and this has happened before, we just have stellar people and we cannot make the decision between the two. But we keep our cohorts small because it's about individual attention. All of my candidates, all of the people in our program have my cell number and can call, text, email. Our alumni still connect with me. Hey, what are your thoughts on this? Can I talk to this professor? Can I talk to that professor? We're about that connection. This is not about churning out credentials or rubber stamping credentials. This is really about creating an army of socially just educators that are going to do great work in the communities that we serve. In the community that I grew up in, which was low socioeconomic community, and I keep going back to try to support. And that's really what this is about. So we try to keep it small, high touch, high connection, high expectations, but with high supports. And so the more that we do that, the more we keep having people, alumni, coming back saying, I want to support. I want to be a part of this. How can I help? We've had alumni teach for us. We've had alumni be panelists. If you're a part of the program, you'll see them during orientation. They come and talk to you about their experience. They'll be mentors. But that's because we try to create a family, and we call it the ISLA family more than just a program. Now, if we have enough acceptance or applications and they're just stellar, we do break it up into 2 cohorts. In a year, we wouldn't go more than that, but we have been able to do 2 cohorts. We have enough great faculty and staff and supports like Emily and Anthony that help us make sure that we get these things taken care of. I'm not sure if you spoke about the executive style of the program. Anthony, was that something that was brought up earlier? Okay, great. So again, like we mentioned, this is a program for those that are doing the work. You all are doing the work every day. So we try to make this program doable and achievable for those of you doing the work. So I didn't mention this, but I'm an alumni of this program. So I graduated from the ISLA program in 2009, and then went right directly into the doctoral program. I'm a graduate of the LMU doctoral program as well. Cohort 6, now they're in cohort 20 something. I care not to say what it exactly is. But one of the things is when I came into this position, I wanted to make sure that the program was one that I would have wanted and been able to do as a teacher. And as a principal, actually, I moved into the principalship during the program. So we have our program done executive style. And the executive style means that we have classes early Saturday mornings from 8 a.m. to about 12 p.m. We take 2 classes. You take 2 classes those Saturdays. However, you don't do it every single Saturday, right? So this is a completely online program. You connect synchronously about 6 times or 7 times during a semester. So a semester is about 15 weeks. So you come together synchronously at 8 o'clock in the morning and have 1 class. Then you have a little break. Then you go into your second class via Zoom Saturday morning. By 12:30, you're done for the day. and then you don't come together again for another maybe week or 2 weeks. There's some online components where you'll be going to do research and doing some activities, maybe some assignments, but all really in preparation for those Saturday morning, discussions. We really go hard on those Saturday mornings about really pushing the ideas, pushing our thinking, coming together to really create community. And so you do that every semester. So the idea is that, when I was in the program, we came together Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, and then every other Saturday. It was almost impossible. Even just to get to LA, if you're down here in LA, how do you get across LA at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Doesn't work. How do you, even if you're not in LA and you can do it over Zoom, how do you get rid of the day, Thursday at 7 p.m., and talk about equity and racism in schools and leadership practices when you're still thinking about what happened during the day? You're thinking about all the grading you have to do. You're thinking about how to plan for the next morning because you're about to go back to school. It's not conducive, right? It doesn't support you as people. And we want to support you as people, not just professionals, people, not just candidates. So Saturday morning allows you to set up your morning. You can have your coffee. You can be in your pajamas. You can come in. We invite family to be a part. We've had many small Isla family members come in and sit and listen to our lectures. A lot of fur babies come through all the time because it's about family. We want you to learn in a place, in a space that helps you learn the best. And that Saturday morning, that compartmentalized time, and then you have the rest of your weekend and some time to rest. We've done this now for about 8 years, and that's one of the things that we get a lot of feedback on. And our program is a year and a half. A lot of the programs outside of ours, CSUN speaking, UCLA, can be up to 2 to 3 years. And we can't wait. We won't lower the quality, but we will make it so that we can't wait. We can't wait for great leaders to be out there in our communities. They're needed now. So how do we support you and make sure you can go make that difference as soon as possible with the right supports? So that's our executive style program. So I wanted to make sure that I put that to you. Again, all geared towards being able to say, you know what, I'm teaching full time and I don't know how I'm going to fit something in, but I think I can fit this in. And with the kind of supports we give, we will make sure you're successful. That's what we are committed to that.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
With that style, is that for also like the masters and the field work, like that same style all the way through?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Now, if you do the masters, you will have to take, for the credential, you take one summer class. For the masters, you add a few more summer classes. That's when you take it. There are a couple of classes here and there that are done, Tuesday evenings if they're not in our department, because you have to take electives. So sometimes the electives are in a different department, but you get to choose that elective. So it's probably a class that you're really interested in from, ed studies or special programs or teaching, learning, curriculum, reading, instruct, whatever it is. If it's something that really gets you, then you probably won't be able to, focus. I mean, you'll be able to focus on that if it has to happen in a summer. That's pretty quick. So the classes are only on Saturdays. So you don't have any classes any other day. We try to compartmentalize that, and not every Saturday. Again, about 6 times in a 15-week semester.
Okay. And then the field work, do you have to be in LA area for that?
No, you
Okay.
do not.
Okay.
You just have to be in the state of California.
Okay.
Yeah, and we support you on your campus. So one of the benefits of that is when you talk to your principal or your supervisor, and our mentors meet with your supervisors as well to kind of grease the wheels, so to speak, and support. They're actually getting an admin for free, right? Because you're going to do a project that you probably would want to do anyway, and something that they'll be like, for sure, you want to support our reading instruction and make sure that we get to certain achievement levels, go for it. And we try to package it so that they kind of open up the doors so that you can make it happen. So you're not only benefiting yourself and getting things done, but you're benefiting your community, your school community, in a way that you probably would have done anyway.
Right. Okay. And sorry, one more question. Is
Sure.
it possible to have an intern admin credential and also be doing this?
We
Or
don't
would-
have an intern credential program. There
Okay.
are certain schools that do have an internship admin program. It's getting more and more rare because it costs a lot for districts. They have, because then as an intern admin, they have to pay you a higher salary because you're doing more administrative work,
Mhm.
and a lot of districts aren't able to pay that. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't have an intern
Okay.
credential. Good question. Application is due. So we have a rolling application. Our priority deadline is April 1st, which is actually a Saturday. So I should say April 3rd. But our priority deadline is April 1st. And one of the reasons is, number one, we want to make sure that we, if you want to get in, give yourself the best chance to get a spot. April 1st is around the deadline that you'll want to get it in. Secondly, we have scholarship opportunity for those of you that get in early enough and the money is still there. Right now, you would get $8,000 off of the entire tuition if you get in the cohort for this fall. That doesn't happen every year, same amount, but right now it's $8,000 off the cost of the credential. So in order to make sure, and we give it until the money's gone. So to make sure, we try to make sure that there's an earlier deadline, but you honestly could apply all the way through. I think the very last date is August 1st to actually get something in. Samantha, can you speak a little bit about what you're asking again?
No, Anthony was giving me some information. I
Oh,
had
gotcha.
asked about scholarships.
Gotcha. Okay.
If there's anything out there, or having gone to LMU before, is there anything specific I should look for?
Excellent. Samantha, you said, were you the one that completed an MA in your urban ed? Okay, so yeah, there's some
Yeah.
supports in that, and we can definitely talk more about that. And I'm sure Anthony will give you all the info that you would need for that. But there are some scholarship opportunities. What I will say, and I'm sure Anthony would tell you the same thing, is they're far and few between. There's not a lot of money out there for those particular programs. A small pot of money for the entire graduate program. But our scholarship, the $8,000 that comes from School of Ed and the ISLA program, is guaranteed if you get a spot in our program. So you don't have to apply for anything else. You don't have to have it's not need-based, it's not merit-based. It is our $8,000 is given by virtue of becoming part of the ISLA family. It's an automatic. So someone asked about application. I see the link went out. Thank you, Emily, for that. And if you have any questions or needs when it comes to the application, like I said, we are dedicated to your success in this. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You can email me if you have any questions about the application. I know our graduate division answers, our graduate admissions answers lots of questions about applications. We have an advisor that I can connect you with to help you through things. We have quite a few people that can support you if you need help with your application. We'll go step by step with you, not a problem. Can we apply now? Absolutely. Absolutely. It is open and we are taking in applications now. Any other questions at all? If right after the Zoom ends, the question pops up, which inevitably happens sometimes, just shoot me a quick email.
Oh, I just
can respond to you.
no.
Jimmy.
Okay, so I just asked if we've already applied, because I've already applied. How soon will we get a status report on admission?
Good question. So it takes probably a couple of weeks for it to turn around to get back to me. And once it gets back to me and everything is clear, then I will contact you right away. And then once we set up, the next step would be an admissions interview. And we set that up. We try to do it as soon as possible. And then within maybe a couple weeks after that interview, you should have your decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we try to do it very quickly because we all know that you have to do planning. You have to plan your life. You have to plan what's happening next semester. Again, we're trying to support you in making this doable as people and not just candidates.
And then my last question, I'm sorry, would be when you said the summer course, does that mean that when you start in fall, it's the summer course that will follow like in 2024, not necessarily 2023?
Correct. It's the only summer that you would be required to take is in between 2024. Yeah. So you're done in 3 semesters with that summer right in the middle. Question says, if we get 8K towards, yes. It does sound too good to be true, but it is true. It is true. We want to make it accessible. We fight for it every year. Thank you, Emily. So summer 2 begins June 26th. That is, if you are going to do the MA, you can start with summer classes before the credential program starts. So it helps you kind of get a jump start on that. If you're just doing credential, then you would start at the end of August in fall semester.
Dr.
And
Ponce, I
right
know
now,
there's always a confusion with the summer starts if there is a class on Saturday. So would that be the 24th?
class starts, whatever that Monday is, that class starts, it's the
Mhm.
Saturday after.
After, okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah. We get into trouble if we have class before semester really starts. I try to avoid that as much as I can. So just kind of a looking here in terms of August, just so you pencil it in, our orientation for the ISLA program would be August 26th, Saturday. That would basically be the first class if you're just doing credential. And again, it's online and it is Saturday morning as well, just the same as everything else. Let's see, but what would be for the masters? Okay. Yeah, masters, you don't have to start in June. You can. My suggestion is you should, if you can, take a class. They're online, completely online. Take a class, get 3 units done, and it kind of eases your schedule for the masters throughout the rest of the program. I always suggest it if possible. And it's completely online, so if you still need to take your break and go on vacation or whatever you need to do, you still can do it. The online class we have is completely asynchronous online, so you don't even have a time where you connect with your cohort. You just complete modules and turn them in. So we try to make it easy for you to do that. And again, if any other questions come up or you want to talk it through or have more information you would like to get, please just email me and we can set something up. All right. If there are no other questions, I thank you very much.